Hello, I'm Nathan Smith. I'm a realtor in central Maine with Pouliot Real Estate. I'm also an economist and a technology policy consultant. I wear multiple hats and I love data-driven decision making. Housing is the most important financial decision that a lot of people make in their lives. It's a good time to be smart, and that's what I'm going to try to help you do today. So, if you're coming to this video as a buyer, then I want to help you know the market, understand what you can realistically afford. I want to give you a way to figure out whether your favorite listings are maybe overpriced, a little underpriced, and to help you make fast, confident decisions in a fast-moving market. The house you want might not stay on the market very long. And if you make an offer that's a little bit too low, you might not get another chance. On the other hand, it's great to get a deal. So having some insight, data-driven insights about the market can be very helpful here. If you don't have an agent yet, you could consider a non-exclusive buyer representation agreement with me with no obligation to buy. My email address is there at the bottom of the screen, so I'd be happy if you reach out. If you're a seller, you also need to know the market. I can give you a data-driven second opinion beyond just the Zestimate that you could look up at Zillow about what your house is worth and also what it could be worth. There's a lot of different improvements, changes you might make. Some of them might pay off in a sale, some of them might not. So you could strategize about timing, when to list, what kinds of improvements should you make pre-listing to make it sell or to make it sell faster or for a better price, and understand the real cost. If you overprice the house, where should you price it? At what point is it going to sit? Or if you just say are selling as is, won't make any improvements, what's the cost of that? Again, if you don't have an agent yet, then definitely feel free to reach out to me at the email address below and just schedule a free consultation, help to form a strategy. If you're an investor, I didn't really design this video around your problem, comparing, say, rental income versus mortgage cost, for example. That would be a different analysis than what I've done here. But I could do it. What I'm showing here is relevant, and it can really sort of showcase what data-driven decision support can look like in an age of AI. We'll get to that in a minute, but AI opens up some fascinating new possibilities. Definitely reach out if you want to. I would love to talk through how analytics can help you make some smart real estate investments. And if you're a realtor, I hope this video will be useful to you. You might learn something. You might also have something to tell me that I missed. You might want to share this with your buyers or with your sellers to try to set more realistic market expectations. Now, I'm a licensed realtor, so under the code of ethics, I can't solicit your clients, so you don't have to worry about that. This is just an educational resource. But I'm open to referrals or co-listing arrangements, and I can also share the code that I used for this analysis if you want to run it for yourself. Um, but definitely, especially your expert feedback would be very welcome. I'd love to hear what you find useful and what else I could do along similar lines that you might find more useful. Okay, so with that in mind, Maine home prices have risen a lot in recent years. This shows the charts and going back way back to 2005, and there's usually a huge jump between, say, mostly between about 2019 and about 2023, almost a doubling of prices in a fairly brief time. And since then, they've kept on going up, but not as fast. So, Maine home prices have surged in recent years. They've kind of stabilized now, it looks like, at a pretty high level. And not much reason to think they're going to come back down. So, unfortunately for buyers, but there's kind of windfall for sellers there. So, currently, properties are listing a little bit higher than what they've recently been selling for. You can see that by comparing the blue bars in this chart, which show the distribution of sales prices in recent sales, and the green bars, which show the distribution of current list prices. median list price is about 11% higher than recent sales. This is for the state of Maine as a whole. If we zoom in on central Maine, the prices are a little bit lower, um, but the list prices are about 19% higher than recent sales. So, are these higher list prices justified? Well, there's a lot of factors to take into account. There's a general price trend that's upward, has that's continued for a while. But these also might be somewhat different kind of houses, so it's worth trying to control for a lot of other factors that might be affecting those prices. So I built for that purpose what's called a hedonic price model, where I take more than 100 different factors into account, use statistics to try to figure out what's determining prices. This chart shows the all of the current listings in central Maine as of the time I downloaded them a week ago against the model predicted prices, which was based on comparable closed sales over the past few months and to some extent over the past few years. And that statistical model that I built was able to explain 83% of the variation in closed sale prices. So based on things like square footage, location, condition, heating system, water access, and a bunch of other things, then most of the variation in prices can be explained. There's a little bit, about 17%, that still seems to be unexplained, maybe from things the model can't see. And if you compare today's listings by price against recent sales, then about 59% are above the model, about 41% are below the model, and but they're not that far off. So the model does a pretty good job of explaining prices, and the list prices look generally reasonable. Um, Stable market, list price is a little bit above trend. Sellers tend to be a little aspirational. They hope to get more than some of them will succeed in getting, um, but but not too far off. Let's look at the days on market. How long does it take homes to sell? So looking back over the past few years, that's the blue bars. That shows the distribution between 1 to 7 days, 8 to 14 days, 15 to 30 days, and so forth. And you'll notice that almost 40% are in that 1 to 7 days range, and about 50% within 14 days, about two-thirds within the first month. By contrast, the green bars show current listings, and about two-thirds of the current listings, as of the time that I downloaded the data, had been sitting for at least a month, and the median was 53 days. So this might be counterintuitive because those listings that are current, they might sit for a while longer. So for those listings, the median days on market will ultimately be more than 53 days. So why is it that it's so short for the ones that have closed? Well, a lot of houses cycle through the market fast. They don't stay very long and they don't bring the average down very much for current listings, but in terms of closed sales, you have a lot that are concentrated at the sort of bottom of that distribution. And this is important for strategy. Almost half of the homes listed are under contract within 1 week, and then a lot of listings become stale. And that can deter buyers. Even if the house would look nice for them otherwise, why has it been sitting so long? What's wrong with it? They will think. So that's something that sellers should take into account. Um, Strategic ramifications of this for buyers, you want to be able to move fast when the right deal comes along. You want to know when to offer above asking price. You want to be able to figure out whether the price is fair, how competitive it's likely to be. You want to be able to guess when the price might be a little soft, because on the other hand, sometimes you might be able to get a little bit of deal, something might be overpriced. And and you want to understand whether it's worth waiting for that perfect property to come along. Uh, Sometimes it might be. Sometimes you might have something in mind and it's actually realistic. In other cases, it's not. And you'll want to know, whether you can afford it, how fast you need to move, and how to bid when that comes along. Or should you settle for something a little different? You need to be a little bit more imaginative about, what you could live in. For sellers, then one lesson is that if you overprice your house and you make it sit for a little while and it kind of goes stale, that can backfire. You might ultimately get less because you asked initially for too much. You also want to anticipate when a fast sale is likely, and be ready. If that you list it, that might be the best time to sell in those first few days after it's listed. If you get a lot of offers, you might get multiple offers, so you should be ready for that contingency. On the other hand, it's not necessarily the end of the world if the house sits for a while. Some properties need to find a pretty specific buyer, but that specific buyer will really like them. So that can be a good strategy. It depends on the nature of the property and kind of how distinctive it is. How long do houses generally sit? This shows the seasonal variations ever since back in 2023. Clearly, it depends a lot on the time of year. In fall and winter, houses move a lot more slowly. The market slows down, and it's not too hard to see why. Spring and summer are much nicer times for house hunting than when the leaves are gone and when it's cold outside. And also, if you care about the outdoors, you want to see it at its best. So, housing markets accelerate in summer and then slow down. And there's been a little bit of a long-term slowdown in the market over the past few years. Houses don't sell quite as quickly as they did, but it's still healthy. Very seasonal sales, market's gotten a bit slower. And a lot of other factors influence how long a house sits. Some of these I can understand. If it's far from a grocery store, that's a little bit more of a niche. Deep rural areas that'll deter a lot of buyers, but a few buyers will like it. But it takes a little bit longer to find them. Near the coast, sells quicker. Coast is very popular, so those can be grabbed up. Um, New construction tends to sit a little longer. Builders have already had working capital tied up in a new house for a long time. They might not mind another 3 weeks. They might price it for that. And that's kind of a niche too in Maine. There's not that much of that around. So the top one listed 10% above the model value. I found that if the original listing price is higher than the model price that my model predicts, that does make the house sit on the market a little bit longer, but interestingly, not that much, just 1.6 days. That's probably understating it. It's pretty statistically complicated to try to uh, figure that out, but a little bit slower to sell, if you price it higher. Um, a few more things about the Maine housing market. The housing stock here tends to be fairly old. 42 years is the median age of a home that's listed for sale. It's a relatively sparse population in Maine, so an acre of land is typical. 1,600 square feet is the median size of the homes that are currently listed. And ranch and Cape Cod are pretty common styles. So there's also some contemporary, some New Englander. Um, About a quarter of houses have direct water frontage, which tends to contribute a lot to the value. People love living on ponds and lakes in Maine if they can. Um, More don't have that. Garages contribute modestly to the value. About half of houses have them either attached or detached. And a strikingly large share of the housing in central Maine is on well or septic. Almost two-thirds of the current listings are on well and both well and septic. And the smaller share have public water and sewer, and then a few have mostly public water and no public sewer. So with my hedonic price model, I can construct imaginary houses and then predict how much they would sell for. That's kind of fun. And I used it for this exercise of uh, suggesting what you might be able to buy in different parts of central Maine for $350,000. I'll start in my hometown of Gardner. So this description is a narrative that's based on a selection of property traits that would predict a price of $350,000 in the model. So that'd be maybe a well-maintained 1991 Cape Cod, a 2+ acres south of Augusta, 3 bedrooms, 1.5 baths, 1,550 square feet, and so forth. And fairly nice radiant heat and town water and sewer and so forth. Um, and Fairly nice interior. So you might be able to get this in Gardner for 350,000. If you go out to Camden, it's a more expensive market. And so I've crafted here a house that possibly could be bought for that price, a little bit more dilapidated, 1150 square feet, three bedrooms, one bath, and not as much privacy. Even so, you'd be lucky if you could find a place like this in Camden. It's pretty expensive there. Um, if you go up to Skowhegan, that's a cheaper market. You might be able to get something really quite nice up in Skowhegan for this. This example, 2.6 private acres, quite nice interior, granite kitchen, with wood stove, multiple heating systems, radiant heat, and deck. This river view. This place looks pretty nice. You might be able to get this in Skowhegan. So depends on where you're shopping. In general, this shows the location premium throughout the state of Maine, based on the model. You can see it's a lot cheaper to live, if you go way up north into Rustic County or way out east, that's a lot cheaper. The most expensive is down in the south, Portland, closer to Massachusetts, lots of jobs there. And also the coast is quite a draw. So along that southern coast. And some of that is in our region, like Camden, for example, is kind of part of that higher priced part of the state. And so then Bath is also coastal, not quite as expensive as Camden, Augusta kind of in the middle. And then Lewiston and Waterville might offer more deals. Sometimes moving further inland can be a good option if you're on a budget. So waterfront is valued a lot in Maine. You have a year-round water view. People like that a lot. A dock, direct water frontage, or ocean front. All of that shows up in the price. And you can see here that controlling for all the other factors that impact price, having those water views or the water frontage has shown up as a higher price in recent sales. And of course, you might have multiples of these things, year-round water view and direct water frontage and a dock. And then those different premiums kind of stack up. And so that can really contribute a lot to the value at that point. And naturally, current listings also reflect that. And those properties are listed for more. Interestingly, some statistical evidence that waterfront sellers may be pricing a little bit aggressively compared to what buyers have actually shown a track record of being willing to pay. So that will be interesting to see whether that premium is actually increasing or whether those buyers might be, or those sellers might be a little optimistic. Looking at heating, this of course is very important in Maine, and quite a few homes will have multiple heating systems in the same home. Um, about half of properties have either baseboard hot water heating only, or else they have forced air only. But then there's also quite a few that have baseboard or forced air and something else, a heat pump or a wood stove, for example. And and then there's a small number that have something different, only a heat pump, for example. A little hard to keep up with the cold with just a heat pump, a wood stove only, a radiant only. And on the right hand panel, a few things that are related to heating, which contribute notably to value. Radiant heat in the floors is quite popular. A natural gas connection contributes something, and pellet fuels system, a wood stove system. And one thing that's interesting is that for most of these, then the value in recent sales is greater than what is reflected in current listings. So, in current listings, properties that have some of these features do get listed higher, but not quite as much higher as what the sales have actually, the difference that the sales have shown recently. Okay, so for this next segment, I use an AI agent, Claude Haiku, to process the text in the agent listings in order to get some particular insight about the reasons why the properties sold for what they sold for. And in particular, I had the AI agent look for condition and take texts similar to those in the second column to determine whether the house is move-in ready or updated and refreshed, a step below move-in ready, or maybe a little dated, or maybe needs work or a fixer-upper. The third column gives a little glimpse of the instructions to the Claude Haiku AI agent as it was processing these. And to do this on thousands of listings is something that would be not very feasible for a human being. But for an AI agent, it can do it, and it can do it pretty well. So, so this is a really an additional level of insight that wouldn't really have been possible, at least not at a reasonable cost, a few years ago. Now, if you're a seller, if you're a buyer, wouldn't you like to have an AI agent scanning the MLS for you? What would you be looking for? Think about it and feel free to reach out to me. I would help you program the AI agent that you want to scan the MLS better. I'd be happy to do that for you. So in this case, I was looking at condition. This shows a mix of the condition of the houses that are listed. So about a third, a little more than a third move-in ready, about a third kind of dated, fairly small percentage that got classified as needing work or as a fixer-upper. And and naturally, that condition ranking contributed statistically to the prices of homes. So you could see the fixer-uppers sold for quite a bit less than the move-in ready houses, a swing of about 25%. Um, that's also reflected in current listings. They're listed higher when the condition is a little bit better. Although interestingly, it seems that sellers may be slightly overestimating how much buyers care relative to the track record of recent sales. Haven't talked about size yet. Of course, bigger houses tend to be worth more, but there's also what economists call diminishing marginal utility when houses get past a certain size. So if you compare a 1,600 square foot house that's kind of otherwise an average typical home in terms of the location and physical features, and if you hold those constant, but you only change the square footage and you double it, the price might rise from 461,000 to 730,000. That, of course, is considerably less than a doubling of the value of the house. So, so that's something to keep in mind for larger houses. Even and sometimes even quite small properties can command high prices based on location or based on luxury features and so forth. A lot of other factors positively impact the value of a house. Sort of luxury language in the listing, probably reflecting luxury features in the property. The cottage style is valued, log siding is valued, whole house generator acreage tends to contribute to value, decks, porches, driveways, granite countertops, quartz countertops. So a lot of different factors can. Now, one thing that is striking about this is that for some of these premium features, the impact on current listing prices is greater than the impact on recent closed sales, suggesting that sellers may be underestimating the value of these features to buyers. So, for example, the luxury tier properties, they did sell for more by about 24.9% in recent months, but the listing prices are about 32% higher than for similar properties in other respects. And, they probably won't get that much more if this pattern continues from recent sales. Um, Cottage and log slightly overrated by sellers, but acreage is another one. If you double the lot size, then sellers will raise the list price by 6.8%, but the actual sales prices have only been 3.9% higher for each doubling of the lot size. So um, driveways, decks, and porches, on the other hand, seem to be a little bit underestimated by sellers. And solar panels are an interesting case because in terms of list prices, 9% more. Sellers are valuing those a lot, listing quite a bit higher. Buyers have not actually demonstrated a willingness to pay much more for solar panels, but but times could be changing. Energy futures look a lot more expensive now than they did a few months ago before the war and so forth. So maybe that will turn out to represent the true value. So okay, a bunch of defects that fortunately only impact a small percentage of the houses, but all of these things subtract from the value. Asbestos siding, if it's a low privacy setting, dirt floor basement, water moisture issues, and then some things about how the property is sold. So if there's a distress signal, if it's an estate sale, or if the seller says it's sold as is, they're not willing to make any changes. Those all reduce the value. Um, some of these reduce the value less, some more than what the sellers expect based on comparing current list prices to closed sales. The biggest surprise here, water and moisture issues are a real bummer for sellers and are often dramatically undermining the prices and causing them to take a big haircut on the value. Um, as is language in the listing also seems to damage the prices more than sellers expect. They end up having to come down. Um, Dirt floor basements, I guess, would go the other way. Sellers discount it more than buyers turn out to actually demand. But let me circle back to calls to action. What are the takeaways here? So if you're a buyer, again, know the market. I've got a lot more analytics that I can present, and more importantly, I can apply them to your specific criteria, customize these kinds of analytics to what you as a buyer are looking for. And and maybe if you have something in particular you're looking for that you might want to read listings for, use an AI agent. If you spend a lot of time on Zillow looking at house after house after house after house, that could probably be done more efficiently, and I would be happy to help you with that, and help you with the strategy. When the right place comes along, how much do you bid for it? So if you don't have an agent yet, consider it a non-exclusive buyer rep agreement with me. Um, Sellers, there's a lot of strategy to the timing of it, to how much do you do and what do you do pre-listing. Part of the purpose of this model is to shed light on what alterations that you might make to a property that you're intending to list, which ones will pay off in the sale price and which ones won't. And I would love to have a consultation with you and talk through what your options are and then do an analysis that's specific to your place to help you sell your house in the most profitable way or the quickest way or whatever your objective may be, with the help of some data-driven decision making. For investors, again, this isn't particularly aimed at you, but if you are a real estate investor in Maine, you're looking to buy income properties, I would love to help you, and I can customize the analytics around that. Let's talk. And and for other realtors, please let me know if this is useful. Please let me know what else you would be interested in seeing in terms of analytics. I'd love to have a chat. So thank you very much. And that's all for now.